Welcome to the International Lawyers Network's webinar series. The ILN is an association of 91 high-quality, full-service and specialized law firms with over 5,000 lawyers worldwide, of which your firm is a valued member. The network provides clients with easily accessible legal services in 67 countries on 6 continents. Today's webinar is on building your dream network. Building your dream network. What does that mean? Let's start first with what we think networking is. I promise this isn't a presentation on the basics of networking, so just bear with me for a few moments. Think for a moment about what your definition of networking is. Essentially, it's the word that we use to describe the activities we undertake to connect and strengthen our relationships with other people. It's about weaving offline and online interactions into an integrated networking whole. And there are 3 essential truths about it. It must be done constantly. You can control what you put into it, but not what you get out of it. It's happening all the time. The first and the third ones are truths you see illustrated at ILN conferences often. There are some people you will see everywhere at an ILN conference. They sit in the lobby during any downtime. They stay out late at the bar with ILN friends. They meet early before dinner for a drink or use the free hour between gathering times to grab coffee. They never eat breakfast alone. They attend every tour, lunch, dinner, business session, whether it's something they're interested in or not, because they know that each of those things is an opportunity to strengthen their relationships with other ILN people there. Networking is constant, and it's happening all the time. Although we've defined it, when you hear the word networking, you'll often think about word-of-mouth marketing and what you know. In the past, it was enough to be a great lawyer. If you were a great lawyer, your clients would know it and they would tell other people and the work would come in. But today, your skills alone are no longer enough. It's not about what you know, it's about who knows what you know. Kelly Hoey says in her book, when you know people and those people know what you do, success knows how to find you. Your skills and expertise need an audience. And that makes sense, right? With so many lawyers in the industry and so many smart lawyers at that, something has to be the game changer. And what is that? It's access. Your networks give you access. If that sounds too philosophical, think about how many times you've had a great idea only to hear about someone else developing it. What was the difference between them and you? Not intelligence or the ability to develop an idea, but the access to the right people. So if you're worried that you might be committing random acts of networking, the first step to correct this is to ask yourself, why? What is your why? In order to get the most out of your networking, you need to first set a goal, one that is specific and measurable. Are you looking to grow your practice, develop into a niche area of the law, enhance your reputation within the industry, become the top rainmaker at your firm? Once you know the answer to why you're networking, it will be much easier to keep your efforts on track, identify the right people in your network to help you, to stay consistent, and to understand what tactics you say yes and no to. It gives you greater control over the entire process of networking. Let's use a recent example. Some of you may be familiar with an organization called CLOC, the Corporate Legal Operations Consortium. This is a fairly new group to the legal industry, and they're bringing together legal operations professionals for networking, education, to share best practices, and to drive change within the industry. They're primarily focused within corporate legal departments, but they recognize that in order to drive change, they need to be partnering with people across all functions in the legal ecosystem. Because they're on the client side, they've been on our radar for a while. They recently held their 2nd annual conference, and I had the opportunity to go. This was the perfect time to put into some practice some of these networking principles. In this case, the why is twofold. First, attending a conference like this at a time when the organization is starting to grow and is looking for strategic partners is the perfect instance to meet key attendees, both in-house counsel and legal operations professionals, and raise the profile of the ILN and its members with one of your audiences. Secondly, networking with those key attendees and sharing information about the ILN and the solutions that our members provide individually and collectively is a value add to our membership. Adding value to our members and raising the profile of the ILN and its members are 2 key goals for the administration. This conference is a natural fit with those goals, so it was a clear yes when it came time to make the decision about attending. Once you know the why, the who becomes much clearer. Look across all of your existing networks to see who might be able to help you reach your goal. but don't reach out yet. You're just doing an audit first. But you don't want to leave anyone out either. Look at friends, family, alumni groups, your CRM system, colleagues, social media connections, acquaintances, parents of your children's friends, your running buddies, whoever. You may find that your network is already quite robust for what you need, or you may realize that there are some holes and you have some additional work to do. The idea here is to develop flexible networks for shifting goals. Rather than looking at the universe of people that you know as one network, you're developing a single goal and identifying individual parts of your network to help you meet that goal. That allows you to grow and change your networks in order to fit them to your needs. Sometimes those needs will require you to augment parts of your network, while at other times you'll already be well connected. For me, this started with the connections I have within the Legal Marketing Association community. I used a Facebook group that I'm part of to identify which members of the group would be attending, and also posted a status on LinkedIn about going to the conference, which resulted in a former ILN marketing director connecting me with one of his lawyers who would be going to the conference for the first time. I downloaded the conference app and looked through the list of people who were there and started following the hashtag on Twitter to give myself an idea of who some of the attendees at the event were that I might want to make sure to meet. It would turn out that it would be a mix of people within my existing network, some of whom would introduce me to people at the event, using technology to identify and introduce myself to key people in person, and just plain old in-person networking. And that's the next piece of the puzzle, the how. Once you've decided what your goal is for networking and who you need in your networks in order to reach your goal, it can be tempting to jump right in and just start asking people to help you. But here's the key to networking, which won't come as a surprise to any of you. Entrepreneur Devin Brooks says, maintaining and nurturing relationships takes thoughtfulness. It doesn't mean nonsensical or overly casual check-ins and email updates. It means learning to ask the right questions so you can discern how your time can be best used to forward the relationship. It means always communicating with intention to add value. And that's good news for you too, because when you're concentrated on adding value and focusing the relationship, you're not wasting your own time either, which is a precious commodity in this industry. It also means that there are no shortcuts, unfortunately. But when your networking is focused on a specific goal with a specific audience in mind, then success is more easily achieved and your investment of time is wisely spent. Okay, so what are the keys here in this how section? Build your network one person at a time. You want to devise a strategy to stay in touch because a one and done isn't going to build a relationship. So for example, I chose a few people I absolutely had to meet at the CLAW conference and happened to meet a few other valuable connections as well. This included in-house counsel for General Motors, the head of operations for Google, the head of operations for Telstra, a key operations professional with Nissan, and the head of operations with NetApp, who is also the head of Clock itself. Always be thinking about what the person you're connecting to is interested in and how you can be valuable to them. This must be part of your strategy too, because you need to determine how to stay in touch without asking for anything. For example, Clock is looking to develop a branch in Europe, and I had a great conversation with Connie Brenton, who's the head of Clock, at the conference and offered to be of assistance in other jurisdictions as they expand. We've already been in touch since then, and that continues to put us as an organization on her radar, and we're an organization that's helpful to her, but not asking for anything. Use every asset you have in your networking efforts. This list includes everything from your corporate bio, to your social media profiles, to your email signature line, to the relationships you have with your coworkers in your department and across the company. All of these things are supporting your professional objectives. So in my case, I used my first substantive blog post following the conference as a summary of what I had learned there, and then I shared it with the group on LinkedIn and through the hashtag on Twitter. It was a way for me to offer some valuable information to participants and those watching on the sidelines, and it also garnered additional attention for the ILN, which advances our goals. Be strategically curious. The things that make you a good lawyer also make you a good networker, such as being detail-oriented. So you want to take the time to see how the people in your network that you're going to ask for help choose to connect, engage, and communicate. When you want people to help you, it's better to meet them where they are and in a way that makes them comfortable. Watching the way that they engage will provide you clues for how, when, and where that happens. So I'm in the learning process now with the contacts that I made at the conference. I'm seeing that some of them like to connect on LinkedIn, while others prefer Twitter conversations, and still others will connect better via email or over the phone. The ultimate goal, of course, remains that face-to-face meeting. Ignore technology at your peril. This relates to the above point, but Kelly Hoey says that technology use reveals the mundane, delightful, and unexpected. It's simply a matter of pausing to take a greater interest in the behaviors and patterns of people on those platforms instead of focusing on the functionality of the platform itself. And this includes social media, emails, text, mobile, tablet, etc. All of these touch points are opportunities to engage with people, and a lot of tiny acts of networking build into a relationship. Seek the unfamiliar. It can be easier to do what's familiar to us, to stay within the same circles of networks that we've always known. But when you're networking towards a goal with a specific audience in mind, you have to remain laser focused on that goal and those people, even when it feels uncomfortable. To some people, this comes naturally, while to others of us, it's a bit more hard work. I can tell you from personal experience that it's extraordinarily difficult for me to walk into a huge exhibit hall where I know almost nobody and force myself to meet new people. It's equally difficult to sit down in a conference room and say hello to the person next to me instead of focusing on checking the emails on my phone. But when I put my phone away and introduced myself in that first session to the person next to me, I met an in-house counsel for GM who told me that he was really interested in the ILN and wants to know more because they often struggle with finding good counsel in some jurisdictions. The delegate on the other side of me never put his laptop away and never had the opportunity to meet either of us. So who was more successful? And perhaps most importantly, but also at the end of this list for a reason, the more you understand how someone can specifically help you, the more they are to help you. It's the difference between saying to someone, for example, at an ILN conference, hey, if you ever need a lawyer in my city, you know who to call. And seeking out the lawyers in the jurisdictions where you do the most work, with whom you built a prior relationship, and saying, I do a lot of leasing work for clients from your jurisdiction in my city, and I usually work with this size and type of client. I'd love to talk more with you about the possibility of visiting your office and connecting with some of your clients who may be looking to expand abroad. One final thing to note here, and this falls into the usual mantra of people will do business with those they know, like, and trust. When you're building and strengthening your networks, people are more likely to go out of their way to help you and may even take some personal risk if they know you. Your relationship with them helps invest them in the outcome and makes them want to help you succeed. All of this sounds like a lot of work, and it is. But when you're strategically focused on your networking by setting a goal, identifying the right people to focus on to help you meet that goal, consistently and constantly engaging with them in the places that they want to connect with you and about the things that are mutually valuable, they will help to give you access to the things that will make you successful. Rinse and repeat. While that formula shouldn't come as a surprise to any of you, the way that you access information and tools today has expanded tremendously through technology. Not only can we connect and engage with people in a multitude of ways, we're all leaving huge digital breadcrumbs that act as an incredible resource for research and further connection and engagement. Don't be afraid to expand your networking efforts through these tools while always keeping the goal of those face-to-face relationships in mind. And okay, this may sound like I'm just another millennial who loves social media telling you to use Facebook, but let me give you a concrete example of why this is so important. Now, I'm known in the legal industry as an early adopter of Twitter, and I don't use it that much these days. But where I do use it frequently is in and around conferences. So when I headed to CLOC, as I mentioned, I started following the hashtag, and I was live tweeting the sessions. The other person who was doing a lot of live tweeting and following the hashtag was Mary O'Carroll, who's the head of legal operations for Google. That put me on her radar because she retweeted a number of things that I had shared. And so then when I wanted to introduce myself to her, I had a reason to walk up to her and shake her hand because we had an existing online acquaintanceship. Social media can tell you things about people, what they care about, what they engage with, who they know, and it can give you a soft introduction to them to make the in-person connection a little less awkward. A final quote I'd like to leave you with from Kelly Hoey's book, Build Your Dream Network, Forging Powerful Relationships in a Hyper-Connected World. In our hyper-connected world, how you let people know or what you need, want, or desire becomes key. And you do that by constantly connecting the dots between your goals and the ways your network can help you. No, not by randomly tossing out emails or posts on social media with high hopes and little thought. Rather, by being intentional about how and when you tap into your network. I highly recommend picking up Kelly's book, where a number of these principles are drawn from, and using the tips that I've shared with you for focusing your own networking efforts. Thank you.